Hello, my name is Esther Lynch. I work for the Irish Congress of Trade Unions. I want to congratulate John on putting this together. I know you've worked for a long time on this. I have a question and a comment. My question is to the Minister, and to say, I can't remember the exact name of the bill, but it's called the White Collar Bill, and that has, the Criminal Justice Bill, thank you, and that has a requirement in Section 19, or you're obliged now to report. And I'm just wondering why the government chose not to include in that bill a protection for workers, so that if they do report, that their employer won't be able to put them on a blacklist, or won't be able to whitewall them, or do all the other things, or essentially dismiss them on foot of that report. So I have to say I'm very, very disappointed it doesn't include that, and to ask you why. And then also to say to John, given that you will now be covered by the same bill, and you're going to hear about things, where does that place you in this service? And then just my comment to Bob, I have to say, obviously as a representative of the workers, a bit disappointed in the example that you used, to be honest. People could turn up for work for the next 100 years, and it wouldn't amount to anything like the type of wrongdoing that has gone on. And certainly, if people were to use this free phone to phone up and say, I arrived in, and the people looked like they were slacking, it'll be the kiss of death to this service. So actually, I also think it trivialises exactly what's going on in our society to be focused on people who don't do an hour's work, to be honest. So a question and a comment. Thank you.
I'll tell you what, we'll take that question because I think it was a three-parter aimed at more than one person. So I'm going to abrogate my responsibility for now and turn to the Minister.
I don't know the answer to the question, to be honest, but I will raise it with the Minister for Justice. There certainly was no particular discussion at Cabinet in relation to that. So I can't answer your question. I don't know.
Bob, if I can respond.
It's been transparent.
If I can respond to your comment, certainly no intention to trivialise. The point I was trying to make is that the wrongdoings that we see about us, whether day to day or hopefully less frequently, can either be very small or in fact very, very large. And yes, I've seen frauds of millions. I've seen disclosure of information which is entirely wrong. But I think to try to exclude or to compartmentalise our consideration of wrongdoing only to very, very big stuff is to unwittingly perhaps, inadvertently perhaps, take the first step towards a bigger wrongdoing on our own part. So that was the only point I was trying to make in giving the example.
Just to answer your question, I've just got a note there to say the Minister will have to run in 10 minutes. He's important business to attend to. We're anxious not to take in the first instance information that may incriminate anyone or may identify anyone at the outset. We will always encourage people to seek legal advice before they share information that may pertain to a criminal offence. We don't want to be put in a position, I do not want to put my volunteers in a position where they're sitting in the High Court giving evidence. We want to ensure that whatever correspondence we have with people come to us as held in confidence. The primary purpose of this service is to offer people support and information, not legal advice. So we're not asking people to come and report to us. If in the event, however, that a company, for example, is looking for someone to act as an interlocutor between a whistleblower and themselves, then we will look at that. But we do not want to find ourselves in a position where I'm sitting, I don't really want to spend time down the High Court. I'm too busy. Do we have any other questions? We take one more for the Minister has to run.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Personal point of view as a whistleblower in the health service, I don't know if law can change the reality, and I mentioned this to you briefly, Minister. As a whistleblower in a hospital, and I live in the same community within where my hospital is, I still, 17 years later, am subjected to slandering, wrong stories being circulated, some of which are slanderous, and if I was at that mindset, I would actually sue the people. But on a human level, for a whistleblower, what can be done because it died down for a while, but then 3 years ago I found myself in a position that either I speak up to the victims because they needed a public person to speak up to them, and since I've gone out in that role, that smear campaign has really accelerated. I have to say, sadly, mostly by healthcare professionals. So if you are one individual working in a big institution in a town, the size of a town, and just, you know, what can be done on the human side of it? And I suppose I'd be asking you, Minister, I would like to engage with you and the Minister for Health, because I think the response of the authorities to date has compounded and given fuel to that smear campaign. And if you are a whistleblower and if you go out there and take major steps to protect your patients or whoever it is that your ethical commitment is to, I think you deserve the support of the authorities, and I haven't had it. And I'd like tonight to blow the whistle, and I'm here blowing the whistle to you, Minister, to the Ombudsman, and to you as well, and to everybody in this room, that in the North East there are 250 patients who have alleged suffering sexual abuse as patients. And I am blowing the whistle right here and now that they have been mistreated by successive governments. They've been marginalised, neglected. And I'm asking you, it is now resting on the Minister for Health, James Riley's desk. As well, I would ask you, Minister, to work with us, and I will re-engage with the Ombudsman's office. We were engaged before in the Way. So I'm blowing the whistle that that's actually happening since 1994 to quite a considerable number of patients. And also, it's a risk for all patients in the health service being ignored and neglected. So, I really feel we can talk all the talk, but I like to see people walking the walk.
Minister.
Well, take the last question first. Sexual abuse is a criminal offence.
Yes.
If you know of sexual abuse, report it to the guards. They're the statutory body to deal with criminal offences in this state. And they have an extraordinarily good record, because I've dealt with them on very sensitive and difficult matters. It is not a matter for the Ombudsman. It's not a matter for the Minister for Health. And I think we must make it very clear that criminality is a matter that must be prosecuted in the normal way. And if anybody has any evidence or suspicion of a crime, and sexual abuse is a crime, it should be reported to An Garda Síochána and investigated. If the Garda Síochána don't investigate it, then you have an appeal mechanism to deal with that, so the Garda Ombudsman Commission.
Well, maybe I need to clarify. Yes, we are aware there's 109 files in the DPP currently.
Well,
that's why I'm being legally sensitive.
Well, then we shouldn't discuss those, obviously.
No, but we should, because health have a responsibility to patients outside the criminal justice system. They will deal with the crime. Health has a responsibility to care for patients and to care for. They have HSE has responsibility around child protection and the care of patients or the care of anybody who reports sexual abuse. So there are responsibilities in the criminal justice system, but equally and of equal importance, there are responsibilities in health. And I'm saying now, this organisation who represents all of these patients have been, by successive governments since 1994, this issue has not been dealt with.
But if you say that there are many files with the DPP, yes, obviously it has been investigated. We operate in a system where people are innocent until proven guilty, but if there's any risk, there are protocols to deal with that, and that's something that should be dealt with.
Perpetrator in that one particular case, but there are other in the health system, has been removed from the medical register, haven't been found guilty of sexual assault.
Yeah.
And you're missing my point, I think, Minister. It isn't just, you just say it doesn't say to patients or to people, go to the criminal justice system. They need support through that process.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of care, counselling, a lot of additional. Health has a responsibility as well, and I'm just saying the transparency. And these people have not been cared for to date by the government.
Sure. Can I say, just in terms of your first question, because I think it is an extremely difficult one. It's one that I've grappled with myself in terms of trying to protect people who've given me information. Preserving anonymity is obviously, if they want that, is the best way of protecting people, and public representatives can front up a charge in terms of if something needs to be investigated. But if people choose to be public advocates for it, it is very difficult. It's a cultural change you need to bring about, and That is a very difficult thing to do, and I think that this organisation and this movement will begin that, so that there is no sneaking regarders or nods and winks, that if we establish a different pattern of behaviour of what is acceptable and what is normal, and that fellow travellers of wrongdoing is understood to be wrongdoing in itself. But that's a cultural change, I think, that will take some time to achieve.
Sorry, can I just intervene here? I know, Minister, you have to run now. I would like everyone to know that we will do our best as well to lend whatever support we can to you or anyone else who's spoken up, or to any group that is campaigning for the kind of justice or the answers that you're looking for, and the reform that you're looking for too. So I think it's important to address the substantive issues, but as you say, to work in coalition and league with other groups as well who will be able to lend you the support you need. And I'm sure, as we've spoken before, that you'll be able to lend us support as well in helping others who find themselves in a similar position to yourself. Minister, thanks very much. Yes, thank you. You didn't. Would you like the question addressed to anyone else before we move on?
Well, you know, the circumstances you describe are very, very troubling, and I don't want to make anything less of the issue that you have, but by saying that, you know, prevention is really the first port of call, and what we have to focus on is making sure that these things don't happen again in the first instance, and making sure that we examine all of the different players at different stages to see exactly who was responsible for what, and why did the system break down, why was somebody exposed to harm, and make sure that those systems and procedures are actually improved. As for the individual cases, you know, they're subject to court and to the process of law, and undoubtedly, you know, the care and support is a separate issue. But really, I believe profoundly that we must actually make the systems and accountabilities far, far stronger to stop the problem rising in the first place.
Sorry, someone here had a thank you, Bob.
Martin Murphy, Equal Times. Just in relation to the service itself, I'm just wondering what kind of vetting you have for the volunteers, and also what happens then at the end of the year. You said the services pay for a year. What are you going to do after that?
The second question is very interesting. The first is dealt with by interviewing every volunteer that comes through, and we have a confidentiality agreement with every volunteer that comes through the helpline. They're either practicing solicitors or barristers who are helping us, or they're final year law students that are working with us on the helpline. As I mentioned earlier on, they're not taking enough information, or they shouldn't be taking enough information to identify the people who are calling us. So we've moved to address the risk that anyone might be identified or might be exposed or compromised by calling the service. We have enough money to keep us going for another year. We've got a year's seed funding. In that time, we need to raise money, both from the public and other sources. If we didn't move now, we never would. We'd have run out of money by the time we'd got the service up and running. So we've got a lot of work to do to sustain ourselves over the next year or so.